If anyone can prove that there's life beyond death, it's Honda. 2 years ago, Honda revived a classic adventure bike from its roster, the Transalp. Now, after attending the launch back in 2023 and spending probably about 12 months, 5,000 miles riding that original XL750 Transalp, there were a few things discovered as we lived with it that took away from the really positive first impressions and kind of lessened the bike's appeal to live with, for me personally. But Honda has listened to feedback and they've updated the Transalp for 2025. In this video, I'll answer 3 questions. Has Honda changed enough to fix our concerns with the Transalp? Is it still one of the best value midweight adventure bikes on the market? And most importantly, should you buy one? So what's new? On paper, not much has changed. Most obviously is the new headlight that draws a bit of family resemblance to the Africa Twin, and that's paired with a new windscreen and a refreshed upper fairing. The 5-inch TFT display has also been updated, with a new layout which is crisp and easy to read. You also get an updated switchgear with a backlit toggle switch to navigate the menus with. I think the biggest change is in the suspension, and they've revised the damping settings both at the fork and the shock, and have made the bike so much more stable and enjoyable to ride. While the fueling and engine mapping have had some slight changes to increase throttle responsiveness and create more difference between the riding modes. Aside from that, there's not really much else to report except for new graphics and colours and a new accessories catalogue including waterproof soft luggage and a thick comfort seat, amongst other things. But when you've got a winning formula, you don't want to mess with it too much. After all, last year the Transalp became Honda's 3rd best-selling bike in Europe, overtaking the Africa Twin. The engine's still the same 750cc, 90 brake horsepower, 75 Nm of torque. But the injection settings have been tweaked ever so slightly to make the throttle more responsive when you roll it on, smoothing out a jerkiness that was present before. The playfulness of the engine is the highlight, with the usable spread of power. There's shove in the low end to slingshot you out of corners, but also likes to be kept wound on. And what a sound it makes when you do. At the same time, the engine is still friendly for beginners and isn't too excitable for around town usage either. It's just as happy plodding through traffic as it is twisting mountain roads, like the ones we've been treated to here in Portugal. My favourite thing about the XL750 Transalp is its handling. For a bike with a thin 21-inch front wheel, it handles impeccably on the road. It takes no effort at all to throw it into corners, with stable, precise steering, light handling that's impossible to get tired of, and a nimbleness that you rarely find on an adventure bike, aided by the 208 kilo weight. Paired with that excellent engine, the Transalp is great fun in the twisties. In fact, it's one of my favourite mid-weight adventure bikes for carving up tarmac. The fact that it's so easy to ride in the twisties also gives it plenty of credibility as a tourer for, well, crossing the Alps. So the suspension, you get 200 mils at the front, 190 mils travel at the back. And before, the main issue I had with this bike was the really undersprung soft rear shock. Now, when you were traveling, by yourself casually around town, very comfortable. But if you were given it a bit more on the roads, or if you put some luggage on it and you were going away for a weekend, you really started to feel the limitations of that soft spring. And you'd lose a bit of directness through the corners, you'd start to float out a bit, and it was a bit vague, and it really kind of took away from how much fun the bike could be to ride, especially with that engine. Honda's gone and revised the damping settings. They've made it slightly softer at the front, but firmer at the rear. To me, that's just transformed the bike. It's so much more stable, it's so much more direct in its steering. The steering was always great, and the handling was always great, because it's got the 21 front-inch wheel, but there was just that vagueness in the rear end. But with the new suspension settings, it's so much more planted, and you can really just take the bike and put it through its paces in the corners, and it's so much fun to ride. It's really transformed the bike for me. Although the suspension has been retuned for performance rather than comfort, the Transalp is still a good place to spend a day. The sitting and bar position is neutral, the leg bend angle relaxed, and the revised windscreen does a good job of reducing wind blasts at high speeds. As before, the standard seat seems to be one area which Honda has sought to keep the price down, and when I've spent a few hours riding it, my arse has got fairly sore. However, on this launch, my bike has been fitted with an accessory comfort seat, and what a difference it's made. It's made the seat firmer, better sculpted, and more padded, with 20 mils thicker cushioning, which also has the benefit of making the bend of the knee more relaxed as well. With a standard seat height of 850 mils, the Transalp remains very accessible. I've got no problems getting my feet down at 5'8", and it's not too top heavy either. So the biggest visual change is the new front fairing. The old one was a little bit on the anonymous side, shall we say, and the fact that it was shared with a number of other bikes in their catalogue, you kind of feel the cost cutting at play there. But now Honda's revised the front fairing, new headlights, new windscreen, and it's given the bike a bit more character, a bit more of its own look. There's also updated graphics and a new colour called Pearl Mud Deep Grey, which actually looks pretty cool. I don't think the Transalp is a bad looking bike at all. It's probably not going to turn many heads, but it's far from ugly. Let's call it conventionally attractive. You can test ride all the latest adventure and touring bikes at the ABR Festival 2025. If you're looking to buy a new motorcycle, there's nowhere better to compare and contrast bikes than the world's leading manufacturers. Head over to abrfestival.com to get your tickets today. Nothing has changed in the wheels and brakes for the Transalp in 2025. As before, you get a 21-inch spoked front with an 18-inch rear wheel, shod with either Metzeler Karoo Street or Dunlop Mixed Tour tyres. Both are good options and both offer plenty of grip, although keep in mind these do take tubes. It's the same story in the brakes department, with two 310mm floating discs stopped by dual piston calipers up front, and a 256mm disc at the rear matched with a single piston caliper. The brakes aren't razor sharp, but they've got an intuitive feel to them and can handle bringing the bike to a quick, controlled stop. In an ideal world, I'd have them a little more responsive, but they're still definitely up to the job. The Transalp has always been a soft roader rather than an off-roader, and the latest model continues this theme. It's actually quite an enjoyable bike to ride on gravel roads like the one we've rode here in Portugal, with easy, light handling. If you're planning on exploring gravel trails and light green lanes, it's more than up to the task. A gravel mode is included within the riding modes, which offers an off-road setting for the rear wheel ABS and traction control, and preset engine mapping settings. But they've retweaked the gravel mode, because before the traction control cut in very early, and so if you're using gravel mode on anything more than just a very flat gravel track, you'd find the traction control would cut in, you'd have trouble getting up slopes. It was a bit difficult to use. But now they've tweaked the gravel mode, and it's still a pretty hard touch when it comes to cutting in and intervening with traction control. But I found when we were out riding on the gravel, if you're like a beginner off-road, it's a lot more confidence inspiring than it was, because it would still let the back wheel slip out if you're going up a hill, and it would still give the power when you need it to get up, a gravel slope. As before, it was a bit more sketchy. But I still found that turning off traction control and the rear wheel ABS was the way to go for handling the bike off-road. It is a bit tricky to work out how you do that through the menus. It takes a little bit of time, but once you're used to it, it's not so bad. It's not a Dakar bike. It never was and never will be. And if you accept that and accept the kind of riding that you're most likely to be doing, which is the kind of gravel fire tracks, light green laning, it is all you need. When the Transalp first returned in 2023, it was one of the best value for money midweight adventure bikes on the market, coming in under 10 grand. 2 years on, it's great to see that Honda hasn't bumped up the price at all. In the UK, the retail is still £9,749 for the 2025 model. You get a lot of bike for that. A great engine, fantastic riding experience, everyday rideability and practicality, and good touring and off-road potential. Plus there's the TFT with phone connectivity and 5 riding modes. However, there's more competition than ever in this market, and especially with the bikes coming out of China, with offerings from Vogue, CF Moto and Cove, many of which undercut the Transalp and offer more on paper. However, the Transalp is incredibly well built, with the attention to detail of Honda's engineering and manufacturing present in every part of the bike. Mechanically, it's as reliable as they come, and it delivers a more exciting ride than the price tag may suggest. There's a couple things that I wish Honda had included as standard. They are available as accessories, and I feel like if you're going to buy this bike, you'll need to get them. Number one is of course the sump guard. You've got 210mm ground clearance, but there is quite an exposed sump. The exhaust pipes are really right in front, so if you're going to be going off-road, they'll be taking a beating. And so you want to get the sump guard. The other one is the seat. Now the stock seat I found, it's still the same as it was in the 2023 model. It's pretty uncomfortable for anything over an hour riding. The comfort seat, I've tried it out today, and it's amazing. It's so much better, and I feel like it should just be standard, to be honest. But if you're gonna buy the bike, definitely take the comfort seat. It does increase the seat height by 20 mils, but I still found easy enough to get your feet down. It actually gives you a bit more space to stretch your knees when you're riding on the bike, and it's just so much more firmer and comfortable for long distances. You know, I spent, you know, plenty of days, plenty of weekends, 8 hours inside of the 2023 Transalp. I was pretty sore by the end, but I think comfort seat on, you'll be good to go. Capable. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot by motorcycle journalists, especially when they can't think of anything else to say. But the Transalp is definitely capable, and now more so than ever. With the revised suspension, it's more capable as a tourer, an off-roader, and as a cornering machine. It's a thrill to ride, and I don't think I could ever get physically tired of it. But, and this is subjective, it's not a bike that I'd fall in love with. In pursuit of relentless capability, it has perhaps lost a little bit of character along the way. No matter how good it is at barreling through mountain roads, I don't seem to get off the Transalp, walk away and turn around for another look. But in the real world, practicality trumps most other things. If you need a bike that can do almost everything you could throw at it for years and years, the Transalp is a fantastic choice. Now if I wanted a bike to go around the world on, the Transalp is definitely on my shortlist. I could commute on it daily, it would never miss a beat, and I'd be grateful for its comfort, handling and affordability. I don't think I'd be standing around outside the office with a bunch of non-bikers admiring the Transalp for its sex appeal, but I would be very happy that I made a very good choice.